Welcome to the Dad Squad Solutions podcast, where we're made up of two dads and one aspiring dad. You have your dream team again, TK, Chad, and Kai, talking about a wonderful but yet a bit layered conversation today. Today's topic is going to be you are not your father's absence. Today, we're going to be having our wonderful guest all the way from the Bahamas, representing 242, Anton Minnis. He is here joining with us to give us his opinion, his expert opinion on what is it being a man and having absence in your life in various ways. So, Anton, you want to share with us a little bit about yourself?
Good morning, guests. Good morning, panelists. My name is Anton Minnis. I'm from Nassau in the Bahamas. Beautiful place. If ever you get the opportunity, please do come and visit. I'm a father of 5, a husband of 1. I have multiple businesses, and I enjoy having these type of discussions to help people to grow, to learn and to grow myself, because so much is revealed and opened to us once we start discussions.
Absolutely. And Adon has been a huge part of my life when I was growing up. He took me under his wing, and I am the 5th child he's talking about, if no one knows. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I am absolutely honored, and we all are honored here at Dad Squad to have you here. So this topic today covers a lot of different layers, and I know we can't get through every single layer today, but I know that there's some questions that men are asking right now. Men that did not have their fathers in their lives, either completely gone or they didn't see them often. Most men may be asking the question, am I missing something when he wasn't there? Or can I be a leader because he wasn't there? Or, was his absence just God ordained? So, Anton, when you hear this topic, I am not my father's absence. What do you think just generally about that topic?
My thoughts on the topic bring me to a place of people not understanding why a father was absent. There are multiple reasons that a father could have been absent. And I find in a lot of cases, fathers become absent because of frustration. The father that just decides to leave could leave out of frustration. Many of them could leave because of abandonment issues, not wanting to feel as though they are abandoned, so they do the abandoning first. Many of them leave because they don't want to have this interaction with the mother that they're going, that consistent arguing and misunderstanding, and that consistent not wanting to be led. So sometimes mothers don't want to be led by the father. He has a vision for his family. He has a vision that he's been given to where he wants to see how he wants to see his children develop. However, it may be in contrast or in conflict with the view that the mother has. So that causes an argument. So to not argue, some of them just leave because it becomes mentally, really becomes heavy on them. We also have fathers that leave because they feel as though they can't handle the pressure of raising a child and they don't want to fail. Which to me is not, that's the weakest one you can, reason you can come up with. We learn on the go. And as men, that's the way we're wired. We're wired to learn on the move. So to say that you don't want to fail, so you leave, I think it's the weakest reason for you to leave. Now, that being said, there still is no reason for you to leave when it comes down to dealing with your children. Unless your presence is detrimental to that child's welfare and well-being. Because some fathers get themselves into things because they want to provide for their child the best they can. They find nefarious means to do so and put themselves in harm's way and their family in harm's way, so they leave so that the child won't be subject to that lifestyle.
Yeah. Now, Anton, I have a few questions myself, right? not that I didn't grow up with a father, but I feel like my father was a little bit more on the absent side growing up for myself personally as well. But as you were speaking and you're going through the different types of questions and reasons and excuses that are there for fathers not to be present, I was trying to come up with one that best describes me. And I don't think any of those ones resonated with me. But I did want to ask the questions of, did you probably have any kind of questions that you probably wrestled with internally, that you probably didn't get to say out loud, that helped you be able to process and understand from a different perspective of like, yes, I'm trying to figure out why he left, but I don't have the answer. So these are my questions, but I don't say them out loud. Did you wrestle with any of those internal questions that you didn't say out loud to anybody or get to have answers for?
No, I didn't really have any questions due to the fact that my father, I never grew up in a house with my father. That was a product of my father's infidelity.
Mhm.
However, in being that product, he never made me feel like I was not his
Mhm.
or he didn't care about my presence.
Mhm.
So even though he was not present, because a lot of fathers, and one other reason that fathers are not present is because they work a lot. A lot of fathers are out there just pushing, they're working and they want to provide not just the basics, but they want to provide opportunities for their children. And they can't do that being at home. They want to also provide opportunities and safe spaces and for their wives. They can't do that sitting at home because not everybody's job is going to be in front of a computer. So fathers,
Mm,
there are fathers that are out there that they are pushing. They're burning the midnight oil. They're burning the sun. The sun is burning them
mhm,
because they're out there. They're toiling. They want to do that, and they would sacrifice. A lot of them realize that the opportunity may be away from their family in another region, in another area, in another country, that they can provide for their family back home. So they have to go where the grass is green,
yeah.
ensure that they can harvest and send back, that there's abundance at home. But as for my situation with my father, I didn't have a question to ask him. Somehow there were opportunities came up for me to understand. I just saw it for what it was, and I accepted a lot of stuff like that for what it was. My mother answered a lot of questions because she was very fair, very objective in how things work. And in understanding that at an early age, it helped me a lot to just navigate my way through life. And then the opportunity came for he and I to have a conversation. And it was at his insistence, not on my behest. And in that conversation, he revealed to me that, he just did what he could as a father because he never saw a good example of a father.
Mm, mhm,
He didn't know. There was no blueprint, there was no manual, there was no reference point for him. So he just did what he could have as a father.
mm.
So I had to be grateful for that.
And there are so many men out there like that, right? That um, they, I mean, statistics will be thrown in our face that because we didn't have a dad in our lives and so on and so forth, like we are potentially meant to be this particular way with our wives, with our children, and so on. But question is, what impact do you feel like that has now for both the son and for the daughter? So, does it have an impact, or what do you think?
It's very impactful on both children, especially if they're not unable to understand why. A father has to take moments to show them that this is all for you, and it has to be reinforced by their mother. The opinion of a father is not confirmed or accepted by the children, by what is said in front of the father. Now, for me, my mother never spoke ill of my father, or she never allowed me to think otherwise. And that's, I find, in days of yore, that is how the women were. Today, the narrative of, absent fathers, and that is, pervasive. So children tend to develop a negative understanding of their father, especially of his absence. They don't see it as provisional. They don't see it for what it could what it could really have been. They don't see it for that. They just see it as, oh, you are not here for me.
Mhm.
But then the question still has to be asked: were you there for your dad? Did you pick up the phone at any point and say thank you for providing, thank you for helping, thank you for
Mhm.
keeping a shelter, food on the table, clothes on our backs. Thank you for that. You know, you don't hear that. You just hear that you weren't there for me. So as for and you usually hear that from the daughters, because the daughters usually have a deep love for their dad. They say that women usually marry men that are like their fathers, and men usually marry women that are like their mothers. If the absenteeism is understood as provisional and not understood as abandonment, there would be a greater appreciation when he comes around. There'd be a higher level of understanding. But if it's seen as abandonment, then it never be understood. And a cycle of perspective would be that that is what men do. We just leave and we go our way, and we're selfish in our exploits and in our relationships. As a man, I could do what I want to do. I can go out and party and hang with the boys, and because my dad was never there. So if he was never there, that's maybe this is the way men are supposed to be. If he doesn't understand that the absenteeism was about being provisional, ensuring that things were provided for, family was provided for, then just I'm selfishly wanting to be out here, spend my money on me, party with my boys, do whatever I want to do, be a philanderer, whatever. And if that were the case, then many of us would not be here.
All right. And even before Kai jump there, I want to ask, so on that same point, Anton, do you think that it is worth it? Because I understand that men should provide and we will be absent to some degree in order to provide. But I guess I can almost hear some of the people that are watching now saying, well, what about sacrifice? So should men find some way to sacrifice to be there for their families? Or is there some type of balance that they should do? And I'm saying should. What do you think about that?
Do you ever think the sacrifice could be that he sacrificed his health? He sacrificed his energy and time. He sacrificed a meal here or there to make sure that his family is provided for. It's perspective on the sacrifice.
Mm.
Yes, I can come home and I can be with my children for a time. Let's take the 9 to 5 father that sometimes works overtime. When he has an opportunity on the weekend and he sacrifices rest and he's throwing the ball with his children, or, decides to go for a walk or to take them to do something, and he's just there with them. Isn't that a sacrifice as well? Knowing full well that that Monday is just right there. When he gets there and he's giving you instructions or he's helping you with something, do you appreciate that? Or you feel as though that's not enough? And if you feel as though it should be more, then when will it be enough? Or are you grateful for his contribution?
Now, just to jump in there real quick, and not to strike a nerve, but just to understand from the perspective of a child who probably comes from a relationship of infidelity, for example, right? And the father is just not in the household. He's just not a present father because he does not stay in the house. And you understand when it comes to sacrifice, you understand when it comes to him going out there, not having a blueprint, but trying his best means to be able to provide for his family. And being the only child who sees the relationship your father has with his other kids, for example, and you see that you don't have that same relationship, you don't have that same support system, you don't have that same pat on the back of like, well done, son, you have done great, or just let's go play ball and let's just kick the ball around, or him just coming home and being able to give you certain instructions. Not having that, how does that absence quietly shape a young man's confidence and his ability to make decisions when it comes to like emotional expressions and stuff like that?
Because it looks like rejection from one side.
Correct. When we look at the flip side, we give single mothers, we don't give them the same grace, right? Single mothers are also out there fighting the same battle, going out there, having to sacrifice their time, their health, and all these extra things that come with it to be able to provide, but yet still they show up, yet still they're there. But the father is just nowhere to be found. Is that also not a sense of sacrifice, or where do we stand on that side of the coin?
That is also a sense of sacrifice. And mothers, whether they sacrifice or not, will always be looked at as the backbone or the spinal cord of a person's life.
Mm-hmm.
As long as a mother is there. There are mothers who have abandoned their children as well, but they will always be looked at as the backbone of a child's life. But when you talk about being a child that's not in the house with their father and seeing a difference, perspective is the powerful thing, because if he was never there in the house with you to begin with, your reality, because you grew like that, you accept that as a reality. And then oftentimes it shapes you better because it forges you from young to be stronger, to you don't have the security of having that father in the house. So you
Right.
became the security, you became the strength, you became that person. And it also helped to shape the way you think in terms of, okay, I've seen what I would have liked for me. I understand that. So I'm going to provide that for my children. So sometimes it works in your favor. Sometimes it doesn't. If you allow the pain, if it is pain, if you see it as pain, then you can allow that pain to become your motivation to be even a better father to yours than he was to you. You would find in most cases that children who were the product of their father's infidelity tend to be fidelic individuals. They tend to be devoted and committed to their relationships and to the growth and development of their children. I know a situation where a young man, he had never seen his dad, not until his mid to late 30s, that he decided to go and just ask the gentleman who was said to be his father, just ask him, hey, would you mind doing a DNA test to see if it's okay? And the gentleman initially agreed. And then subsequent to that, he decided, no, I'm not doing it. It came as a blow to the young man. But in having the opportunity to speak with him, I said to him, maybe that's the best thing that could have ever happened to you, that your father was not in your life. Because if he was, you may have been just like him. I said, but look at you now. You're a responsible person. You're reliable. You have deep integrity. And you have a strength that is befitting that of a good man. Sometimes their absence could be the best thing for you.
I know, and Anton, you know my story, but I don't know if you know this part of my story, and I want to share this. Um, you know that my dad was not there. He had relationships with with some of my siblings, but me, it was just like never, not, don't even want to talk to you, God, I can't stand your mom. One day, one of my older brothers called me and he said, hey, our dad got into this really bad accident where after a hurricane, he was in this house and the house caved in on him and he nearly died. So he was in recovery and they said it didn't look good. So they said they need, if you want to talk to him, this is your only chance to really get to talk to him because I had never really had a full conversation with my father before. It got to the point where I called him and he knew who I was. He actually remembered my birthday. But as I had 2 days of conversation with him, and the first day was like paradise. If that person who I met on the first day was my dad for my life, I felt like that would have been, I mean, amazing. The second day, he told me if I wanted to have a relationship with him, I needed to help him pay for his medical expenses. And I was 16 at the time. So where am I getting money to help pay for medical expenses? And he said, well, if you can't provide me with any money, I want nothing to do with you. And he hung up the phone and I have never heard from him. And that was 18 years ago. And I always remember in that moment, the level of rejection that I felt was immense. It's basically said like I hated all men that were absent. I labeled them all as the same thing because of my dad. And that's a perspective that I think a lot of guys have is through that space of rejection, through that perception of rejection. This is how we look at the situation and we justify it and said, well, I was hurt and I was rejected. And so when I have my children, I could do the same thing. But I think one of the things that was a huge saving grace for me was I had somebody like you that stepped in and actually helped me to rewrite the script and the blueprint of what I saw. And so, one, I want to publicly say thank you for stepping in and being that dad and helping a hurt child who was rejected and who felt like I needed to hurt the rest of the world. Um, helping me to see that there is uh, there is healing, between a father and a son that can happen. There is forgiveness between a father and a son that can happen. And I also look at just what you've done with other men and becoming their dads, or becoming their dad, and how you spoke into their life. I mean, the massive amount of healing that has just gone on there. So I guess one of my questions for that is why? Why did you feel like it was necessary to step in to be a dad to any of us? Because you didn't have to, especially from what you came through, but you did. Why was that?
As a child, I saw the things that I did not want. And I was always sensitive to hurt, always sensitive to pain in others, especially in my house and my siblings and stuff like that. And those are things that I can't walk away from, hurting people that are sitting there just hurting. A need of that nature and not fulfill it, to me, I feel that's anti-God. When you sit there and you don't fulfill that need. Especially if you have so much to give and you can't give it. You know, I can't see how people can walk away from those opportunities. They're not just opportunities to share, they're also opportunities to learn. When you see the product of what you gave in people like yourself, it fills your heart on another level. This young man could have gone in a really bad direction and walking the path of their purpose. The more I look around, the more I see that we're losing men. And it's like, it almost seems like it's a force that's attempting to ensure that we do lose men. So there has to be a pushback, the race of men being lost.
The fact that people like us who have had mentors like you that have stepped in and just really show us all the things that, or show us the direction that God really wanted us to be in. And we'll fight it. I mean, sometimes we were knuckleheads and sometimes we just didn't believe it, that we deserved the love, the attention, the care. Um, Now, I look at all of us here and we're like, this is a movement. Dad's Got Solutions is a movement against the same force that you're talking about that is trying to destroy men, destroy families, and make that seem normal. Like, we're not normalizing pain. We're not normalizing rejection. That's not normal. But what we are wanting to normalize is for men to know that healing is possible. They're capable of being healed. They're capable of mending. They're capable of building. Um, and so that is who we are. And I want to say again, just a huge thank you to what you have done to help this process be built or help this movement be built to this point. Like, that has been absolutely amazing, and the amount of gratitude. I don't think anybody has the words to truly say for that.
Mhm. God is kind.
Beautiful. Now, Antoine, as we are nearing to the end of our episode for today, I just wanted to ask one final question on my end before I am satisfied. And that question would just be, what would you say to the young man listening who feels like he's already at a disadvantage because his father is absent for whatever reason, whether it's because his father is in the household or the father is not in the household? What is that one thing you'd say to that young man listening right now?
I'd ask him to look at his life to see where he's at. And he have to ask himself, if his father was there, would he have been in that position? Now, let's just say he's impoverished. Let's just say, for the sake of an argument, that his economy is not strong. You have to ask himself the question, if my father were here,
Mm.
if I was living in this condition as well, would he have sold me? Would he have would I have been alive? And if he has joy in his heart, if my father were here, would I still have this joy? Now, if he can say that if my father were here, I would have been in a better position, I would have been in a different place, then he has to know that he can push to get to where he needs to be because he has seen that place. He's seen what is considered to be a promised land for himself. And he can push to get to that. And he can make sure, he can endeavor to ensure that he would never do that in his capacity as a father. So he has that a father's presence or absence can show you what you can do. And it can also show you what you cannot do. And sometimes that's the perspective that we have to learn from. It's not always what you can do, but it's also what you cannot do or what you should not do. And I think the moment you can grab a hold of that, that can be a motivation to get up, to move, to become, to do what needs to be done.
Perfect. I think that is heard and understood. There you have it, listeners. You have heard it from Mr. Antoine, and he has shared his nuggets of wisdom. And honestly, personally, I feel like you have poured into my cup as well, and you have opened my mind from seeing and understanding that the absence of fathers in our lives don't necessarily have to be a bad thing, because we don't have a blueprint as young men out here who are just trying to be fathers. And because of whatever circumstances fathers end up leaving, that is not the encouragement right now. But please do drop a comment in the comment section below if you guys have anything else or you disagree. If you have any questions, we would love to engage with all of our listeners today. And if you have not subscribed or followed us yet, please don't forget to do that at Dad Squad Solutions. And from us, Dad Squad Solutions and Mr. Antoine, it is thank you very much and see you next time.